Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the beautiful Charsie Lux. Charsie, how you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing very well today. How are you?
I am doing very well, and I really appreciate you coming on, taking some time out to come out and hang out with us. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are a cosplayer, artist, and storyteller. You create vlogs, horror movie reviews, and tell scary stories on your Patreon. And just a huge fan of horror, D&D, Baldur's Gate 3, metal, and comic books. What got you started in doing reviews and stuff like that through Patreon?
I was gonna say, I started with doing the reviews probably about 2020 and was more actually doing the cosplay. So kind of ended up online, and of course, because of what was going on in the world, everybody was dealing with quarantine and that. So having all that free time, I decided to come online and start doing my cosplays. Well, in doing that, I ended up doing several different podcasts. And I want to say it started in about 2021 was when I started on YouTube, did different podcasts where we talked about horror movies. And then that's when I kind of started my own YouTube channel and started doing the movie reviews on there. So
Mm.
just kind of been delving in just about anything and everything at this point. But I mean, there's something special about horror movies. And it's like you can just talk about the philosophy of them, you can compare them to history, and it's fascinating to find out the stuff about behind the scenes and just getting all the research and just having fun with it.
Yeah. And it's a community that is huge. People
Yeah.
that love horror. And we want to hear other people's opinions on horror that we love or maybe that we didn't love. We still like to hear other people's opinions on those things. And every Friday night that there isn't a Last Drive-In episode, obviously,
Yep.
you and your friends run the hashtag FFB Movie Night Watches on X and Blue Sky. So, on top of all that, you're also working on a horror murder mystery novel. So, what piqued your interest in writing?
I have always loved writing. I have been writing since I've been in junior high. I used to do short stories. And honestly, it became an escape for me because of the fact of being that weirdo in the school. And of course, I had all those quirks and weird things that just being able to write became an outlet to me. And it was about the time I was actually when I became a horror movie fan. So got into true crime, got into murder mysteries, and just started writing. And obviously back in like high school and that, it was all about the pretty vampires and stupid shit like that. But the older I got, I'm like, I'm more fascinated with the art of taking horror and
And we talked about, your Twitter, your Blue Sky, your Patreon. You guys don't have to go searching for all these things because
no.
I do have all of them right down in the description. So please make sure you're giving her a follow, becoming a part of her life as well, because you're going to want to get involved in some of these movie nights. You're going to definitely want to check out this murder mystery novel once she gets that finished as well. So make sure you're clicking the links down in the description so you become a part of that as well. But Charcy, in order for you to do working on writing horror murder mystery or telling scary stories on Patreon or having movie watch-alongs, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now, love,
Yes.
I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Charcy, the first horror movie you watched was?
Was Tremors 2 Aftershocks.
I love this movie so
I'm
much. Um,
so glad to hear that because it gets mixed feelings.
Well, I mean, obviously, without Val, there is something missing, but Grady is a great second man. I will say that.
Yes.
He is a just fine silver medal for me. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
I had to have been 8 because I remember, and this tells you how old this is. My parents rented it back on VHS, back when we had just a local town, little movie store rental place. and they brought it home, and I don't even know why I was allowed to watch it. Probably because of my parents watching the first movie, thinking, "Oh, that's not really a scary movie," but to an 8-year-old and right away going into it, oh my God, I was petrified. So mind
Yeah.
you, I wasn't a horror movie lover like to begin with because it's like, but that movie stayed with me. Like it was so important to me, like after the fact. Later on, when I did fall in love with horror, to this day, that movie still holds like a special place in my heart.
Hmm. And that's why I love talking about this because I feel like that first horror movie really does stick with us in a way.
Yes.
Like we're always gravitating towards that type of horror the older we get. And we know you rented it from the local video store, which is great because my mom and dad owned a mom and pop video store growing up. That's where I spent a lot of my time was at downtown video with my mom and dad and doing a lot of stuff through the video store. But man, this movie is so impactful, and especially I'm sure for an 8-year-old watching it for the first time.
Yes.
Do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
Well, technically, all of the kill scenes, but the first kill right away in that opening just always stuck with me. And I just remember thinking the whole time, like, wait a minute, you're not going to see this thing. It's going to come out from under the ground and get you. And I'm not going to lie, and being an 8-year-old and everything, I used to think like I couldn't touch ground because graboids were going to eat me. I thought sidewalks were safe, not being logical in any way that thinking that a graboid could actually get through a sidewalk, but yeah, that first kill stuck with me.
And it's amazing how they do follow your traditional rules of horror in Tremors. They do change a lot in part two. They amplify it. The kills get bigger.
Yes.
And this is a movie that has a lot of impactful kills throughout this movie. Um, some off screen, obviously, but you still get the aftermath of those. So we know which scene affected you the most, but what would you say your favorite scene from this movie is?
Oh, my favorite, I was gonna say, I'm like, I have so many in there. I mean, obviously the ending with the big explosion and everything, when they keep yelling at Grady to get down in the ditch, and the whole time he's just like,
It's gonna be big! Is it gonna be today? Brady, get your ass down!
and but yeah, they keep yelling at Grady like to get down in the ditch, and then it explodes, and of course Grady goes flying. I mean, that's hilarious. I love the fact that they use the little remote cars in order to explode the graboids and everything. And the number one line is obviously got to be from when you have Bert when he's like,
I feel I was denied critical, need to know information.
need to know information. I mean, that's a classic line every single time too.
It's funny because to this day, one of my favorite scenes of any movie ever is the explosion. It's going to be big. Is it going to be today? Grady, get your ass down here. Like boom. Then you got the big old explosion right after that. Like that scene to me was always so funny. Um,
Yes.
like when they get behind that first building and Bert's, or yeah, he's still running and they're like, and he's like,
Yes.
oh, oh, come
Gotta
on,
keep going.
let's go.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely love this movie. And yeah, the need to know information, like
It's such a classic horror line.
it
I
is
still will use it for gifts in random places, even if it's not even related to it. It's a perfect gift to use. So,
always, always. So we talk about Tremors, obviously this being part of a much bigger franchise now.
yes,
Whenever we talk about movies that are part of a big franchise, I always like to ask, which movie in this franchise would you say is your favorite?
Aftershocks, since it
Okay.
holds that special place, but the close contender is obviously the OG. So,
I agree. I am, and I know a lot of people are like, really? But I am a sucker for part three. I love the ass blasters.
yes,
Um,
that's a fun one though too.
yes,
Ass blasters. I mean, come on.
right, right. There's just something about that movie that I always just really, really loved. So I got to give it up for that one. And
Well,
We've
it's
heard
cool that
rumors.
you actually get to see the old characters from the first movie
Yeah,
come back and you get to like revisit their characters all over again, and especially at an older age. So, I mean, that's kind of a cool aspect in itself because, yeah, we'll have a lot of the franchises, but you don't usually get to keep the same characters every single film.
right, right. And I mean, there's only really one consistent character throughout this whole franchise,
Yes,
but
Bert.
um, oh, Bert. We have heard the rumblings for a long time that they're going to try to do like a soft reboot as a TV show. We've also heard rumors that they were going to try to do a full-on cinematic remake. Is Tremors? I'll go with the original Tremors, obviously, but is this a movie you would like to see them try to remake today?
I'm one of those ones, I'm always fighting with the idea of remakes where it's like maybe because of all the newer ones, it doesn't feel like they've been doing them justice. Because there's been a time that I've been one of those like, oh, I hate remakes and this and that, but I'm like, one of my favorite horror movies of all time is technically a remake. So it's like, if it's done well, I wouldn't say no. And we gotta keep bringing back the newer generations to fall in love with horror the same way that we did, where I don't have a problem with it. I just don't want to see them fail at it. And I
Right.
hope that makes sense and everything.
No, I get it. I think the big thing with me is especially with a movie like Tremors, um, I don't want to see a bunch of CGI worms all over the place.
Yes.
I
Bring
want to see
back
that
the
practicality.
practicals. Hmm.
Yes. Um, like the scene in the beginning where they dig up the first one and they're literally moving the tentacle things on its back
Oh
and they're
yeah,
moving
yeah.
it around.
On
Like,
the
and
pulley system thing.
yes, like I love watching that stuff. Like it's so good. And um you kind of dove into my next question a little bit. So
I
I
knew, I'm like, I better not say because I know that was gonna be a question.
well, we're gonna do it now. My little buddy Ghostface is here. We talked about your first horror movie, but now we gotta know what's your favorite scary movie, Charcy. What is your favorite horror movie of all time, and is it behind you right now?
Um, kind of. It is tied. It is tied. And yes. So, The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing is my number one. But my close contender that I technically will just put up there too is Blade because but they're totally different movies, so my love for them is for totally different
Right.
reasons and everything. So yeah, The Thing, and it's right above my head. So
I thought that was like the thought bubble popping up right when I said it.
you know what? I mean, it suits me perfectly. I'm The Thing.
Well, and again, like you were talking when you said that one of your favorite movies of all time is technically a reboot, that was the first thing that popped in my head.
Yep.
Um, my thoughts on remakes has changed dramatically the older I've gotten. If I don't like a horror movie remake that comes out, I can go and watch the old one. The old one
Yep.
doesn't go anywhere. But the cool thing about it is, even if a remake completely sucks, maybe the younger generation that has never seen Evil Dead or Child's Play or The Exorcist will go back and rewatch the original, and we could get people to go back and check out these horror movies that they may have never seen because they hear of a remake coming out. So I think even the worst remakes have their place to help great movies get seen. Um, so my thing is, we talk about your first horror movie and your favorite horror movie, and I love to see how these movies affect you guys. But Tremors 2 is a movie that we touched on it a little bit. The one that affected you the most was the opening kill. Totally
Yes.
respected. But is there another kill throughout the movie that got you a little bit?
Oh yeah. And it's the weird one because it's one of the ones that we talk about is off screen, and that would be Pedro's kill. And he was the one that was in the tow truck coming out to get them. And so, of course, everything goes wrong. And because they're no longer graboids anymore, they're now the shriekers. So you have both Fred and Grady when they were walking across the way. And it's like, it's the whole scene where you see Pedro's arms hanging over the truck, and then they go to the other side, and there's no body attached to the arms. So that was pretty horrific. So,
Right.
and
This
that stuck with me as well. Like I said, all of them kind of stuck with me, but it's that first one that's the most impactful. So,
Well, and that one you're talking about right there, I love that kill because they leave it completely up to your imagination.
Yes, you can picture it in your head. It's kind of like the old original Vampire, My Bloody Valentine, because all the kills were off screen, but at the end of the day, sometimes our imagination can make them seem way worse than what they actually are.
Exactly. Well, Charcy, I've had an amazing time talking about your
Well,
first horror movie and your favorite horror movie. But before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to Tremors 2 Aftershocks. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. All we're doing is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective. 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Charcy, what would your ranking of Tremors 2 be?
I was gonna say, I'd have to put it at the 5, because I mean, it affected me, it stuck with me. And even years later, once I finally got into the horror genre, I returned back to it. And Grady's my spirit human. I mean, we say spirit animals, but he's my spirit human because there's just something special about his character. So I gotta give it 5.
Totally. I love this movie. Like I will go to bat for the first 3 Tremors all day, every day. So I know I said it at the beginning, guys, but we're at the end of the 3rd act. The credits are about to roll and the curtain's about to drop. But before that happens, I want to remind you, I have all of Charcy's social media links down in the description. So please make sure you're following her, staying up to date with all the amazing things she's going to have coming for us. Charcy, please don't go anywhere. I have a couple more questions for you. Um, Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.